Hello, everyone. This is Paul Everton, The Truth Table. This is episode 53. It is Thursday, February 13th, 2025. And next week, we've got an election happening in Ontario. And I'm going to try to get as many candidates that are running so you get to meet them, learn about them, learn about the party. As you can see here, we've got 16 places that are available for candidates. So that's good. They've got, let's see here, we're up to 108 candidates, which is awesome. So there's 16 more. If you want to volunteer, just take a look at that. Just a little bit about the New Blue Party. In late 2017, Jim Karahalios was a corporate lawyer. He was sued by the Progressive Conservative Party of Ontario in retaliation for Karahalios' founding the activist groups Axe the Carbon Tax, which is, in opposition of the carbon tax, and Take Back Our PC Party. And the suit was dismissed by Ontario Superior Court Justice Paul Perel, who ruled that the PC Party lawsuit was a strategic lawsuit against public participation, intended to stifle dissent. So this is what has been happening in this behind the scenes. But tonight we have a candidate for York-Simcoe, Brent Fellman, and we're gonna get to meet him right after this. Thank you again, all, for joining us here today. Just not long before the election in Ontario happens, and this is a lot of the other podcasters are also interviewing candidates to try to get as much information. And multiple parties. You should look at the platforms of all the parties. But let's I'd like to introduce you to Brent. Brent, thank you for coming on to the show.
Yep, great to be here, Paul.
What was it that compelled you into politics in the first place? What was the driving force?
Well, I would say back in the pandemic, the beginning of the pandemic, there was a lot of government overreach going on with the lockdowns, the vaccine mandates. I didn't really like that. And I realized, just complaining about it doesn't really do a whole lot. So I felt, if I'm gonna do something about it, I should put myself out there and run with a party that's going to defend our rights as a citizen, as parents. And I came across the New Blue Party. They seem to be fairly organized. Jim and Belinda are very experienced in politics. I thought they were the best option for me in my personal beliefs and people that are going to be fighters. They stood up to Doug Ford and his party, and they paid the price. They stood up for their principles, and they both, Belinda was kicked out of the PC party because she stood up for her principles. Jim had some nasty stuff go on with the voting. Because he stood up for his principles. So that's what I like. I like people that stick up for their principles, and that's what I like to do myself as well.
Yeah, and specifically, Belinda voted against Bill 67, which is critical race theory.
Mm-hmm.
And and she was the only one. That's not good. That means everyone else is complicit. It's a whole legislature there.
Yeah, yeah. Even people from the Ontario Party voted for that as well, and all the PCs, people that claim to be conservative.
Are you concerned about the Dominion voting machines and how they could be hacked and change a win to a lose?
Well, that is one of the policies of the new blue. There is a concern about that. Anytime you go digital, there's always a chance of being hacked.
Yeah.
When it goes digital like that, like who's really overseeing it? How do you as a scrutineer, how do you watch what's going on? You can't. It's in digital world.
Yep.
So
They just put
I mean, we're not saying that
and
there is, a monkey business going on, but why not do it the way that would be the least, susceptible to problems? And that is show your ID and vote paper.
yep. Yeah, I would agree with that. There was a recent interview, True North, calling the new blue the only alternative for conservative Ontario. I think everyone needs to know that. All the voters need to realize what we're dealing with here. And we would have to overwhelm them in the Dominion voting machines to get at anywhere. So I think at least if we guys get in, we'd at least have a say. So we definitely need seats. I would like to see, a majority, of course,
Yeah.
because there's so much you have to undo at this point. They've made such a mess of things. And
Well,
but the new blue has stood by their beliefs, and that's important too.
well, this is the whole thing. I mean, right now, the entire legislature is left leaning. I mean, you have the PCs, which are left leaning, the Liberals, the NDP, and the Greens. They're all left leaning. We have one independent there. I'm not really, I haven't gone through that independent's beliefs thoroughly, but really, at the end of the day, you pretty much have an entire legislature that's left leaning. Now, that's not always bad, but hey, why not have some differences of opinion? Like if I'm a CEO and I want to fill a boardroom, I don't want everyone of the same mind, same ideas, same thoughts. It makes you susceptible to what's called groupthink, where
Yep.
no one brings up different ideas. And I'm on a board. I was president of the Innisfil Baseball Association for 6 years. And one of the things I encouraged when I was president is for everyone to speak up, even if everyone is leaning in a certain direction. If you don't agree with what's going on, I want to hear you, because you might actually save us from making a mistake just by giving an opinion that nobody else has heard. And I think our legislature really needs a new blue 1, 2, 3, 4 MPs just to have some different ideas, different perspective. And Belinda, when she did have that brief time there as an MPP, she provided that.
Yeah, because the legislature just pushes through bills. They vote on them. She actually brought attention to what was in it. And if
Right.
no one would have said anything, no one would have known what was in it.
Right. Yeah.
The other thing that's important about having seats in there is that the other parties will bring things up that no one knows about, that they're just ready to shoot it through to go along with their sponsors or lobbyists, whatever whatever happens in those when you're in office. I prefer not to be there myself, but I'm thankful that there are people like you that are willing to do that. And I know it's you get attacked from all angles whenever you're deemed a threat, just like the story I was talking about with Jim. How the party went after him,
Right.
just for for dissent, for going against the carbon tax, that they would try to stop him. And that, and Doug Ford wanting to take all the American liquor off the shelves in the LCBO. I mean, that's childish. That's not statesmanlike. Because
you don't want to, if you're in a negotiation, you don't want to insult the person you're negotiating with. You want to come to solutions. You want to understand where they're coming from. understand what they want, and find a win-win.
Mm-hmm.
That's what we're looking for. I think if we're talking about the tariffs, find a win-win. And I mean, really, it's also a wake-up call for Canada, how reliant we are on America. And we've kind of boxed ourselves into a hole where we haven't expanded our exports. And when something like this happens and we have these tariffs, it wouldn't be so bad if we were selling our LNG to Germany and Greece and Japan and other exports, and had pipelines going across all the way to the both oceans. It wouldn't be so bad. And if we didn't have so many restrictions, even province to province, so it's in a way, it might be good for Canada in the long run, because it's a wake-up call to see what we're actually doing and how we can be stronger as a country.
You're in York-Simcoe district. What would you say the conditions of that district are?
It's a very conservative riding. The last election, the PCs got 57%. Second place was the Liberals. They got 17%. I got 4.5% in the last election with the New Blue. So this is my second election with the New Blue. 4.5% was better than I think the average of the New Blue. So we did fairly well, relatively in the riding. But I mean, one of the things that comes up a lot is this vote splitting idea that, I can't vote for the New Blue because then we're splitting the Conservative vote. And I put a post out about that. And just mathematically, if you add 4.5 plus 57, that's almost 62%. Split that in half, you have 31 each. That easily beats the Liberals at 17. So, like this idea that vote splitting is going to, somehow give it to the Liberals or NDP is not really, in my riding for sure, that's not a concern.
Mm-hmm. Well, we have like 26 registered parties. That's not fair in itself. That's too many. And I think if they're registered, they should be in a poll. But without paper ballots, there's no recount. I mean, they destroy the paper, the evidence in Ontario elections. Like they count them, the machines count them, but then they destroy the evidence. So you can't recount them, you can't check them. It's like, what the hell? I mean, that's the act of a criminal as far as I'm concerned. If you have paper ballots, you could read them 10 years down the road. It's not that many pieces of paper. We could store it.
I haven't dug in that deep. I guess you've dug a little deeper into what goes on with the paper ballots. But yeah, that doesn't sound very good to me.
The last time I voted, I went in there, I put my thing in the machine, and I said, "Do you see what just happened?" And all the people working there said, "What? My vote just got stolen." I just let them know. You realize that they can change my vote in there in a machine. They can't change a vote on a piece of paper. I mean, I almost want to get everyone to get a piece of paper and say, "Look, I voted for this party." Verify it, put your signature on it, make your own receipt, to have our own ballot, receipts so that we can contest it in court. I mean, really, that's how I feel. Like it's the only way to get an honest election is to create our own ballots and have them sign it. This is who I voted for, and verify it, sign it, and then that's it. Then
what do we have scrutineers for now? Like, what is the purpose of a scrutineer?
Not at all.
What are they scrutinizing?
Yeah, and you can't because it's all hidden. It's in a machine that can be hacked. They can make anybody win, but I mean, we got a problem with the polls too. Abacus and Ecos. I mean, they've been proven to just be totally wrong because they showed second place to be 27% in two different polls, same place, same time. And one was 27 was the Conservatives, the other one was Liberals, 27%. So they absolutely cheated in their polls, their polling data. So if they don't have all the parties, I mean, federally it's a different amount of parties, but 26 is a lot for Ontario. That's a lot of choices, like too many. as far as I'm concerned. For people to have time to look into every single one, and then you have to have a candidate in every single district to be able to be on the ballot. Say, oh my God, it's like a tedious, endless. But I'm thankful that people like you are willing to come on the show and expose and what's going on and talk about your party. So let's talk about your party. Let's talk about
Sure.
um, the difference it is between a PPC party, or sorry, a PC party and a New Blue party. If you were elected, if you were given the mandate majority in Ontario, what's the difference?
Well, I'd say one of the biggest differences is do the lobbyists control what we do? And lobbyists being, big developers, special interest groups, big corporate interests. I mean, we are not controlled by those interests. And I think that's why the New Blue has a lot of, there's a lot of publicity trying to say that we're far right or extremist, or, the media doesn't like us a whole lot. And because there are interests out there that they don't want someone that's going to call them out. And they don't want someone that's not going to do their bidding. And that's what we see a lot with the establishment parties. There's a lot of lobbying going on, and in a way, I don't even really think our leaders are running the show. They are basically, like I said, doing the bidding of the lobbyists. And we do have a lot of conservative interest in Ontario, and the main thing that we as the New Blue have to get across is that Doug Ford, he campaigns like a conservative, but when he actually puts policies in action, he very much resembles the Trudeau government. And you don't really see him pushing back at all on Trudeau's policies that affect us. Whereas, I mean, you compare what he does to Danielle Smith or Pierre Poilievre, for that matter. I mean, you see conservatives who are actually putting up resistance to the policies of Trudeau. The massive spending, the wasteful, the increased debt, the lobbyists being controlled by lobbyists, the corruption. You can go on and on. The ideas of like right now, Ford wants to expropriate farmland from people who have not given him consent to take the land in Waterloo County, a big almost 800 acres, and he wants to put some mega site there. And there's a real problem there. So really, do you have property rights in Ontario? The people have not consented. And if you're taking prime agricultural land, what does that say about how you view farmland in Ontario? I mean, if we lose farmland, that just makes us weaker for Trump's tariffs, right?
Yeah.
We need to grow more. We need more greenhouses that can grow food in the wintertime. We need to be more diversified.
Yeah. I would agree 100%. But you're the only party saying drop the HST from 13 to 10%.
Right. We are taxed at such high levels. I mean, you got property taxes, you got income taxes, you got capital gains taxes, you got sales taxes. I mean, on health taxes, on and on and on. We are taxed so heavily in Canada and Ontario that, we have to reduce it somehow. So yes, the New Blue wants to reduce the HST from 13 to 10. We want to get rid of the industrial carbon tax that Doug Ford has on industry. People don't know about that. He says he's against the carbon tax federally, but he has his own industrial carbon tax. So we have to do something with taxes. We are taxed too high in this country.
They're stealing the wealth, our wealth, but they've done a lot of damage for decades. It's like incrementally it's been done. Social engineering, for example, taking over our schools, Doug promised. He said it wasn't right. This gender pronoun stuff is not right, but he never stopped it. And you're the only party that's addressing the woke activism and eliminating the critical race theory. Like Belinda voted against it, gender identity theory, diversity, equity, inclusion, which we hear over and over and over, like they're programming us. When you repeat a lie enough, it becomes the truth. So I'm not going to accept that. I'm not going to accept that as truth. It was about 0.0004% of the population that had gender dysphoria. So it was not a big problem. It was something we could have handled and we could have dealt with, teaching someone to love themselves as they are, accepting themselves, accepting the things that we cannot change. We have good people that are willing to do that, willing to help people. This isn't helping them. This is building something that's going to self-implode our society.
Well, schools are supposed to be a place, they're supposed to be apolitical. I teach in the schools, I'm a supply teacher right now. I do that in the winter. I do various other things. I'm involved in my wife's business, and I teach a lot of baseball clinics and stuff like that. But one of the things I do is I'm a supply teacher, and one of the schools that I supply at a lot, I asked if I could have put a sign up for volunteers and to see if anyone wanted to be involved in my campaign and just to have an experience of what is it like, whether you agree with the principles or not. Maybe there are some students that just want to know what it's like to be involved in a political campaign. And I was told that in the schools we're supposed to be apolitical. And so I wasn't allowed to put that up, which is fine. I don't have a problem. I agree that, we need to keep the politics out of school. We need to focus on core curriculum. But then when you hear about a story of some parents that actually brought a case, I think it was up near Ottawa there. They had their child went to school. I think she was grade 3 or something like that. It was one of the lower levels. And the teacher was basically teaching their child that every human being is on a number or a gender line, somewhere in between male and female. And the child at the end of the day came home and said, "Mom, Dad, am I a male or a female?" So, why are we creating this confusion at, grade 3? Why are we even talking about this at grade 3? So let's focus on the core subjects. Let's get more practical. Let's teach our kids how to survive and how to make a garden, how to, do a tax return. Let's learn a little bit about investing, basic core principles. There's a lot of things that we need to improve in the education system. And one of the things to keep out of there is just activism. Let's be apolitical. Let's learn our history. Let's learn our maths, our sciences, and let's learn how to read and have all the core subjects going. But we don't need the activism.
Yeah, it is the activism because it can be easily explained. We all have a mother and a father. Therefore, we have this X and XY, feminine and masculine, and it's just a big toss of the dice, and nobody's 100% this way or that way. We're all variations in the middle, in between. It just depends on God's plan for us, and that's a perfect plan, and we have no idea what that plan is, and hopefully we all discover what our purpose is within our lifespan. But so falling outside of one or the other, or being in the middle, doesn't make one different. We're all connected, and we're all the same, and we're all beautiful variations of God's plan, as far as I'm concerned. So no one falls off the radar with this. If a boy wants to wear a girl's dress, he's probably more on the feminine side, and he has a little more of his mother's genetics in him, and that's fine. That's okay. Let him do what he wants to do. Just don't do harm unto others. Don't invade women's private spaces. You don't get to cross a line because of a claim of diversity.
We need to be compassionate with people that are struggling, right? We don't want to be judgmental. But we want to show care. But is care? What is care? I mean, if when you're struggling with, let's say, gender dysphoria,
Mm-hmm.
are you really caring about that person if a month or two after that happens, you're putting them on puberty blockers, then you're arranging surgeries to remove body parts? Like, is that really caring? I mean, I've seen a lot of these testimonials of people who've detransitioned, and you can see the tears in their eyes.
Yep.
They
butchering.
Yeah, I mean, they realized they were going through a tough time, and they felt like they were taken advantage of. And
that's what I mean. It's all normal. It's all normal to find out where your place is. Experimenting is fine. It doesn't mean you're this way or that way. You find yourself later throughout life, but you have to keep searching. But the best thing that we can do as adults is teach them that it's okay. Love yourself. Teach them to love themselves the way they are. There's nothing wrong with them. They will find themselves when it's time. But they've made it activism. They've made it a big thing where they're going to turn these children into eunuchs and then offer them maid when their lives are turned upside down, because they'll never have like orgasms. They'll never have one. That's removed from their future. What a horrible thing to do to a human being. That's activism. That's demonic and on a demonic scale to do that to another human being based on feelings.
I think the statistics are, I mean, I read a bunch of studies on this. I think there was around 11 of them that I had looked on. And I think over 80% of young people that struggle with gender dysphoria, eventually, when they get into adulthood, they don't struggle with it anymore.
Yeah, it's only a stage that they made a big deal over. We all go through our stages, It's just a part of finding yourself. When you're young, you're not one way or the other. You're just, like what I mean. But we don't know what we are. Like, we know we're a boy and a girl, but we don't know how we feel. Like, those kind of feelings are for later. When we're ready for it, when we're prepared for that sort of thing, and when we're ready, we're ready. So we don't want to push that forward. We don't want to shove them into a room that they're not prepared for, and destroy their life. And liberals are willing to use maid, for their mistakes, to clean up their mess.
Yeah, that is part of the New Blue policy. Maid is kind of a little bit out of control as well in our country.
It is.
We're like the maid capital of the world now. For those of you that are listening and don't know what MAID is, it's medically assistance in dying. I've heard now they've included it where, like, if you're feeling depressed and you go see a counselor, they'll say, have you considered MAID?
Yep.
I mean, you're a little bit depressed. You're having a bad day. Maybe you lost your job or something. And, someone's saying, have you considered MAID? Essentially what they're saying, do you want to kill yourself? Like, how is that proper?
Yeah.
I mean, if you're someone that's, you've got stage 4 cancer, and it's, I'm not even saying it, at least there's some understanding there. You can understand it. Not that I would still agree with it, but, you can at least understand it a little bit if they're struggling and they're in pain. But if you're just, you're depressed one day, or you've got, you're a soldier and you're dealing with PTSD from wherever you came from, and you're struggling and you're a little bit depressed, like,
whether religious or not, you're still taking a life, and that's one of the commandments, not to do that. So
right.
They're really not respecting religions by doing something like this either. But I'm glad you found volunteers. And were you able to get someone to get you out of the snow here?
Yeah, that's my wife and I were kind of putting in signs, and we had this big snowfall, and the only place to really go was kind of in the ditch area, and went right down in there.
Holy smokes, dude!
Yeah,
like right to your waistline.
Yeah, yeah. It's some of those signs are going in okay. You bang down on the spike there and it goes in, and other places it's like hitting into rock. And when I find a little tree I can attach to, I'm like going, yeah, there's a tree. Okay, I can attach to that.
Yeah, I like that picture. That shows determination right there.
Yeah.
These are the kind of people we need, in our legislature.
Well, this is the thing. I mean, with the new blue, you're the sign guy, you're the talking guy, you're the candidate guy, you're the finance guy, you're the getting the pamphlet ready guy. You're all in one. Whereas all the major parties, they got it all. They come in and it's handed to them on a silver platter. You know.
Yeah. Well, I got to meet Jim a couple of years ago. Basically, when COVID all started, I think I met him around then. But I've been following. Kathleen was absolutely a nightmare, and Bonnie Crombie's trying to buy votes right now, offering to double ODSP. Well, why don't they double it right now for the disabled people instead of, giving thousands of dollars to illegal immigrants? I mean, everything's backwards. They're just trying to implode our society by overwhelming it financially and space-wise, apartment-wise. I saw like a whole bunch of people that weren't Canadian. I know that for sure. They all had mobile phones, and there's like 8 of them together, all individually going into the food banks, just like cleaning us out, taking advantage while they're on their mobile phones. Like, how did you get a mobile phone and now you're in a food bank? These two don't go together for me. You're paying for internet, mobile phone, and you're at a food bank, a Canadian food bank.
Well, my son, who was in a college in Lindsay there, and there was a gentleman who was boasting. I think it was, and had a job and a nice job, and they were boasting how they went to a food bank and got all this free food. And this guy, he didn't need to go to a food bank. He had a good job, and actually, it was what happened is he ended up losing his job because the business found out about this, and he lost his job because of it. So in a way, but a lot of these people who are coming here, it's almost like they don't really know like in Canada, we know you don't use the food bank unless you absolutely have to. You're going through a tough time. Yeah. That's the time. It could happen to anybody, and you're going through a tough time. That's when you use a food bank. You don't use it as free groceries, so you don't have to dig into your own wallet, even though you've got plenty of money to go to a grocery store and buy the food yourself. And, that is a problem. I'm sure a lot of people are using food banks, genuinely, and they do need it. But I've heard from people who are involved in food banks that is an issue of people using it when they don't need to.
It is. Yeah, I went in there. They all left together. It was 9 African, 5 African males and 4 African females, all on mobile phones. They all got left together with, handfuls of bags. And I thought, holy smoke, see, this is Marxism. They want to overwhelm our system, overwhelm our food supply. They're trying to implode us. They weaponize the children with the gender pronouns, because it turned father against, it's all biblical too, that turned father against son. And, that was creating a war that never existed before, and to rip apart the family. And the government wants to be the parent in every possible way, as young as possible. Like Kathleen was really shooting for, the younger the better. Get them in our thing, our program. Get them back.
One of the principles of the New Blue is that we want to have more provincial control over immigration, and who knows better what the needs of Ontario is than the province of Ontario. When you have the federal government sending these people in, they should have to deal with the province, and the province should say, okay, we can take this number of people. These are the people we're looking for, and this is the locations where we need the people. And if we're tapped out, we're tapped out. And We have a big country. I'm sure lots of places people can go. But the numbers need to be in line with our infrastructure.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if our housing can't handle it, if our hospitals can't handle it, if our roads can't handle it, we need to, slow down here and say, whoa, let's match it to our infrastructure. And, that's where we've kind of gone off the rails.
No, I'm not going to give up, but I am black-pilled. I mean, the federal capital is in Ontario. So I think there's a stronghold on our, using our Dominion machine. They make sure the wrong people don't get in, the wrong people for them. So I think that's what's going on with the Dominion, because Quebec doesn't have Dominion voting machines.
Well, they don't.
No, they don't. They don't use them. So I think it's just a way to make sure nobody slips through the cracks. They don't want to have too many new blues in there speaking all this truth stuff.
Well, again, I don't know what's happening with those things. But there's always that concern, maybe there's nothing going on in most of them and, the ones that are fully decided. But what about those ones that are close? Those are the ones that you'd probably be a little bit concerned about. The ones that can go either way or where, a couple percent either way can decide who's in or who's out. Right. So, but again, it's hard to know. You don't know what to think because we have no real access to it once it gets in that machine.
Well, I mean, the paper goes through the machine and the paper tells you who we voted for. It's just that they're destroying that paper. We need that paper. And then we sort of have a paper ballot because if there's any discrepancies, we can always recount them. The fact that they're destroying me tells me they're cheating. That's why I'm black-pilled.
So is it after it's put in there, it goes through a shredder? Is that what you're saying?
No, they keep it maybe for a day or I don't know, but they end up destroying it. And that should never happen. And that's where my issue is. That's where it's rife for corruption. And that's why I'm black-pilled about the Ontario election. It's like they're just pretending that we have elections. You know what I mean? It's like they're just pretending. Unless we have a paper ballot, we really don't have any proof that it's being done properly. And Doug's not against it. Bonnie Crombie's not against it. None of them are against it because it's to their advantage, because they're in the group federally and provincially. Only the people that are, with the globalists get time on the media, on CBS and CBC. They're the only ones that get coverage.
Well, I don't know. I don't know what level of, problems there is with the machines. It's hard to really know. But at the end of the day, wouldn't you want to use the method that is the least susceptible to problems?
Yeah.
And that's paper ballots, show your ID. And, sure, there's rare cases where there are certain people that just can't make it to the voting station for whatever disabilities or for whatever reason. Sure, we can have special circumstances for that. And I know you can request to have the Elections Ontario come right to your home, and they will have people come to your home if need be. But for the vast majority of us, we're able to get in the car, take public transit, or get a ride with somebody else and get to a voting station, show your ID, and have people scrutinizing when those votes are being counted, have people behind them watching them to make sure they're counting properly. And it's not that you're saying, everything's rigged. It's just, no, this is the best way, so let's use the best way.
Absolutely. Something that can be verified, rechecked. If there's any problems, we can recount. It's not a big deal. Paper ballots doesn't cost more. It probably costs less. You don't have to buy the Dominion voting machines, and it's probably even less paper. You probably don't need so much paper for it.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think a new blue mandate would get rid of Dominion voting machines, right? You would vote for that?
Well, that is part of our policy. Yes, that
Good.
we don't want machines. We want paper ballots. You show your ID, and
Hmm.
you have scrutineers watching the whole process.
And this is why I'm doing the podcast, because these are things that people need to know. These are very valid, important to ensure our future. Because the more transparent you are, the more seats you're going to get. It's just there's no way when you're showing that being transparent, people are going to have faith in you. They're going to trust you. We're not getting any transparency. Doug said one thing, we're not going to do the gender pronoun, and then it just continues anyway.
Yeah.
That should be taught in school. Doug Ford said this. This is what he said he stood for. This is his platform. Like, teach about what they did, what they said, what their platform says, and what they actually did. That's the kind of education we need for the kids in school. A political course that goes through, like in Ontario, will be 26 provincial parties. Whoever's registered, just get them in there, talk about them. One day each party. What would that hurt? Just to educate the children politically, so they know exactly what their choices are. Right now, they're graduating socialists. Like Jordan
Yeah.
Peterson proved it to us when he showed how they had went after him for going against the gender pronoun ideology. And it launched his career, but still, he showed us something that we didn't know. Like, U.S. aid has been funding our universities, pushing these ideologies. So there's a lot of people involved here, and we need to take our schools back. We really do. And the provincial government has a lot of power over the education. I would like to see that power being transferred locally, like less power for the province, more for the local city, so that people can deal with it more directly and create curriculums directly involving the parents and, that sort of thing.
Well, if you look at, we had a big policy conference back in the summertime, and we had a lot of vigorous debate, and you were able to bring forth any policy that you wanted to see, and we all voted on it. We debated it. There was actually a lot of, vigorous debate there about a lot of issues, and we came up with 42 principles that we were going to be part of our platform. And if you look at the platform, and you'll see a general trend is that we want to shift the power downwards. We want power shifting to, first of all, to you, the citizen, to you as a parent. We want the parent to have authority over their home, property rights, and over their children, and over education, and a bigger say in what's going on in education. And you should also be able to give your opinion at a meeting, whether a school board meeting or whatever, without getting censored. We also want the provincial not to interfere with municipal. Well, what we see with Doug Ford is he's been using what's called MZOs, Ministry Zoning Orders. And what that is that overrides municipal zoning. So basically, municipal governments now have less of a say on how land is being used. And, who knows better how to use the land than in the municipality? Like I said before, the province knows better what to do in terms of immigration or different things going on in the province. But municipalities also know what's better in terms of how to use their land. We want decentralization. All the other parties want to centralize. They want to get the power upwards. They want it all to be federal, and they want to overreach all the way down to you, the citizen, where at the end of the day, you as a citizen have very little rights left over.
Yep. Well, I love your platform. Lower taxes, end costly government spending, bring back parental rights, remove ideology from education, which we covered, protect farmland, defend property rights, which you covered, provide affordable, reliable energy, and end wasteful green subsidies. Well, we didn't cover that yet, so let's talk a little bit.
Yeah, we didn't cover that. That was actually something, it was a policy that I had brought up. I called it New Blue, as in New Blue Energy, using NU as kind of signifying nuclear, and blue representing water, so hydro. like over half of our energy in Ontario right now comes from nuclear. And people are, scared of nuclear. It's, but how can you be scared of it? Over half of our electricity comes from nuclear right now. It's very dependable. It's got a huge amount of capacity. You can turn it up, you can turn it down.
Yep.
It's there when you need it. And then, water, there's so many ways you can use water. And, these are all, they talk about, they want it to be clean energy. Well, these are the clean energy. This is as clean as it gets. And, water provides, I think, around 25%, somewhere in that range, 25 to 30% of our energy here. Very dependable. But then the one energy source that we have a real problem with is these wind turbines.
Yeah.
Wind turbines, they have a lot of problems. Okay, they might produce clean energy, but when the wind's not blowing, are they producing energy? And when they are blowing really fast, and let's say we don't need that energy, the contracts that those windmills are in are still charging you, the taxpayer. We are still paying even when we don't need the energy, and then we have to get rid of it to New York or to Quebec or to other places. We have to sell it at a loss because once you create that energy, you have to you either use it or you have to get rid of it. So these people that are in these contracts at 3 times market value that have these windmills on their property, that's money that we are losing, right? Yeah. We're losing. So they're getting paid for it, whether we need it or not. So we are paying for that energy, and then when we don't need it, we're selling it at a loss. And then, I mean, just the humanitarian in terms of wildlife, the amount of birds and bats and geese and eagles and hawks that get killed by these windmills.
Yep.
I mean, if you were a hunter and you killed all the animals that one wind turbine kills in a year, you go to jail.
Yep.
So I mean, it's not really humanitarian. It's not dependable. The capacity is not good, and they're in bad contracts, and our hydro rates are sky high because of it.
Yep. And I think you're the only party talking about it too. Everyone's trying to buy their vote right now. We'll give you this, we'll give you that. And see, you're not even doing that. You're saying we're going to stop this, we're going to stop that, we're going to lower taxes.
Yeah.
We're going to stop killing birds. We're going to stop messing with your children's brains.
Yeah.
I mean, you're not saying
they make us out to be some crazy far right party. Obviously, that is what they do in these echo rooms, and they put it out there, and
yep.
And the media doesn't help as well. We don't get a lot of good media coverage, which is too bad. But at the end of the day, you look at our policies and you realize, hey, like what you just put up there at the back of my flyer, does that sound crazy? All those principles that we're talking about there seems pretty reasonable to me. We're a right of center party. We're not far crazy right. We're a right of center party. We just want to bring some common sense conservatism to Ontario. And we don't have Danielle Smith. We don't have Pierre Poilievre. We don't have these people in our province. We need someone that is going to stand up for conservative principles.
Yeah, not someone who left but I mean, he is progressive. Liberals are progressive. Doug Ford is progressive. And progressive is not our friend. People have to realize that word is not good. This is the problem that we're having right now. And we got the problem with cancel culture. Everything they've done has been bad for us. What they've done to our education is bad. What they've done to our power is bad. There's a guy in Africa that invented an EV that costs $14,000 and never has to be charged. Ever. And it can charge your house. So this erases our electrical problems. This one, and he's young. He's just in his 20s. They already tried to kill him 2 times. And but he's been in front of the king or the president of his country in Africa, and so it's been exposed. So there is a chance here that this one's not going to get killed. What was his name? Mayers in the 50s, and water powered cars. But
Well, there's a lot of options out there. You know, you got the hydrogen cells that are gaining ground, and all they pump out is water vapor. I
yep,
mean, why are we not focused on that?
yeah,
You
yeah,
know, I mean, we are the subsidies that Ford is giving out for EVs is incredible. I mean, we're in the billions of dollars.
yeah.
I think it
Depends
was
like a liberal.
4 billion to, was it Stellantis? I think is what was one of the contracts, and there's a lot of money now. EVs. I'm not 100% opposed to an EV. I'm just like, why is there this? Why are we being forced by what I don't know, was it 2035? They want it so that all we're doing is driving EVs.
Yeah,
And you know, if you want to buy an EV, buy an EV. If you want to buy a gas car, buy a gas car. If you want to buy, you know, if the hydrogen starts coming out, buy one of them. Let the market decide. I mean, the other thing we got to think about, okay, how long does it take to fill up a gas car? 5 minutes? Even if you have level 3 chargers, which are the one of the really fast chargers for these EVs, that takes almost half an hour. Okay, so what are we going to do if we're all using those? I mean, we still see lineups at gas stations, you know, right now, and it only takes about 5 minutes to fill up.
but
What are
the
we going to
amount
do when
of
it takes a half an hour?
But I mean, it takes up like a house, like a couple of houses of charging. It sucks a lot of energy, those EVs.
Yeah,
Like
where are
more,
we going to get that from?
it's not economical. It's very expensive, really. Like I said, this guy invented one that doesn't need to be charged. Plus, the Teslas can be remotely controlled. Someone put it like a Gatling gun on his Tesla truck in Africa, and Elon shut his truck down. He shut it off, so he had no access to it. This is why they want us in EVs. Total control. They can shut you down. Cars that are starting on fire, the doors are locking. People can't get out. They're trapped. So these, this is a weapon. These cars are weapons. These aren't, if they can, cook you in a couple of seconds because they get so hot and catch on fire, even the bikes are catching on fire. So this thing that this guy invented doesn't catch on fire. It doesn't need to be charged. It can charge other things. This is like the most beautiful thing that can create a renaissance and just free us from these narcissists, narcissistic, sociopathic, rich people.
The demand for EVs is actually going down, and big car companies like Toyota, like Mercedes-Benz, and there's other car companies as well. They're focusing more on hybrids, where you still have gas, but a much smaller battery. So you're not. I mean, and all the minerals that you have to dig out of the ground to make that big huge battery anyway. I mean. You're talking 5 years anyway before the emissions it works out and it balances out. So, I mean, there's why we, if the trend now is to go hybrid, to go hydrogen, to go maybe even what you're talking about. I haven't heard about that battery that you're talking about, but that sounds like a good thing too. I mean, if this is the way we're going, why are we investing so much money in this one area? Right? It just seems like a misappropriation of funds right now. I mean, all the chargers that are being put in. I know there's over, I think, like 400 chargers that are being put in all over the country, or all over the province. We actually have a real local problem here. Our town of Bradford was going to get 10 EV chargers. 4 of them were going to go to the Metro, the GO train area, which is fine. But we have 6 of them going to a special interest group on agricultural land. How did that ever happen?
Unbelievable.
I mean, even if you're into, even if EVs are the way to go, and I mean, wouldn't you spread those EVs all over the town so that it's spread out? So you don't have to go all the way up to agricultural land, and you're getting 60% of what's being given to our town is going to some agricultural land of a special interest group. How does that make any sense?
Well, I just want to protect, any inventors that come up with something that can solve big problems. I think the New Blue would do that if we have something like this.
The
This
cost
is the
price
guy
of
here.
these revolutionary
This
cars
car,
and a whole lot more.
$14,000.
Maxwell Chikumbutso was born in Zimbabwe in 1980
Zimbabwe.
and grew up in the high-density suburb of Budiriro, Harare. His early life was marked by financial hardships, forcing him to drop out of school at just 14 years old. However, what he lacked in formal education, he more than made up for with his innate brilliance and curiosity for engineering. From a young age, Chikumbutso displayed an extraordinary ability to invent and build complex devices. In the automotive industry could disrupt the Tesla market. Let's take a closer look at some of his most remarkable inventions and how they can positively impact the entire continent and the world at large. The wireless self-powered television. Chikumbutso once showcased a television set that does not require external power. At the heart of this technology is the same microsonic energy system that converts radio frequencies into usable electricity. This means the TV can run indefinitely.
See, he's using frequencies to create the energy that's in the air. It's almost like Tesla. And this thing powers the car. He's got smaller models to power your television, your appliances, your house. I've been tagging it because since I found it, I want to push it, get it known, because they're pushing it right now. This invention, they're mass producing and everything. So hopefully it'll somehow get to Canada, and we can start. Because I think a lot more people can afford $14,000 for a car like that.
Yeah, well, hey, I mean, price is a big problem too. I mean, you know, these EVs have got to come down in price if you want the average everyday person to buy it.
Yep.
But yeah, I mean, if a car like that, you don't need to charge it. That sounds like a good idea to me. But I don't know anything about it, so I can't really comment.
Yep. Well, I mean, he has different models for different things. Like there's he has a motorcycle, beautiful motorcycle. It also runs on, it's basically self-charging. Never have to plug it in, never need gasoline. There's no emissions, zero emissions. Everything the climate radicals are complaining about is solved in this one invention.
They all use the same thing. They all use the what is it, microwaves, or what are they doing? And using the
frequencies in the air. Yeah. So something that's there already.
So they're using everything that's flying around that we don't know about is somehow charging.
That's the thing. Every time we have brilliant people that cure cancer, create these cars that run on water and run on frequencies, for God's sakes, they always try to kill these people, and then their inventions never happen. It's like they do not want us to have happiness, joy, success, wealth, and they've done everything to stop it from happening. But I think we're in the beginning of a renaissance where that's not going to happen anymore. That they've hit a brick wall when we're just not going to we're not going to take it anymore.
There's special interest, financial interests involved all the time, right? If you bring in something new, it takes away money from somebody else. You could go over example after example after example with that. I mean, you start talking about the drugs of ivermectin, hydroxychloroquine, and that sort of those drugs. How they would have taken away so much profit away from the pharmaceutical industries. Why are they not promoted? Well, it takes away money. You know, so same thing. It's money controls it.
I hope your constituents get to watch this, get to know you a little bit better, and that way they can vote with a clean conscience. And if you do watch this video, share it with anyone you know in York-Simcoe or anywhere really, but York-Simcoe specifically, because this will be his riding, and we should all get to know our candidates and get to know what they stand for. Not just recklessly voting just for what we're used to voting for, because those parties don't exist anymore. Liberal parties aren't liberal. They're not even close to being liberal anymore. And the PCs are not conservative anymore.
No.
He's just playing a role. He's like an actor, and not a good actor. And he's very not statesman-like, ready to pick a fight with the United States like a fool. he's fighting a gun. What do you call it? Bringing a knife to a gunfight. So I mean, it's just silly. But I want to thank you for coming on the show, and I hope this gets you more votes and gets you a seat in the legislature. And I want to thank you for coming on the show, and I want to thank you for your time, and I wish you all the best in the future, and I hope to see you again. If I have a round table, I will definitely invite you. If I have multiple New Blue members, because I had a round table, and if Jim is willing to come on, I'll get a round table with different candidates and Jim as well. So and do that. Hopefully, you will come on to that if you're willing.
Sure. Yeah.
Thank you
Anytime you want me to, just let me know.
Thank you for joining me in the last minute. Is there anything you wanted to say before we go?
Oh, I think we pretty much covered it. If you want to have some change, you know, don't do the same thing over and over and over again.
Yeah, I would have to
vote differently. If you want change, you got to vote differently.
But thank you, Brent, for your courage, your determination. Never give up. Thank you. And thank you all at home. We'll see you again next week.
Thanks a lot, Paul.